The next timed item is not till 1 p.m., so looks like we have some folks in the back that probably want to have a conversation with us. So let's go ahead and start with item 7.10, consideration of request for appointment of members to the Building Board of Appeals in compliance with 2022 California Building Code Appendix B. Still morning.
Good morning. Mireya Turner, Community Development Director. The item before you today is our latest and greatest idea to be able to handle appeals of building division decisions. Now, you may not be familiar with the Building Board of Appeals because I think we had one when I first started with the county in 2006, but I don't think we've had one ever since then. We rarely get appeals, but we did get one maybe a few months ago, and that started a conversation to form a Building Board of Appeals. We advertise for, the admin office advertises for it every year, just with the rest of our advisory boards, but it just hasn't been filled and it hasn't been needed. So through these conversations, which I'll turn it over to our chief billing official to describe to you, we came up with this idea of different types of membership rather than just putting it out to the entire community. Rather, we would focus on members with the exact types of expertise that we needed, because building code is vast, as well as representation of multiple jurisdictions. And so this would be a Building Board of Appeals that doesn't just serve Lake County, but it would also serve the city of Lakeport and the other jurisdictions that have that membership in county fire, the fire districts. So now that I've pretty much discussed it all, I'm going to turn it over to our chief billing official to sort of walk you through how it was formed.
Hello, Bill Collins, Chief Building Official. So when I got here, I had heard that the Board of Supervisors had ended up being named as the Building Board of Appeals. After doing some research, and the code knowledge that I already have when I got here, it specifically talks about the qualifications that are required for the Building Board of Appeals as being the board shall consist of 5 individuals who are qualified by experience and training to pass on matters pertaining to building construction and are not employees of the jurisdiction. So I took this over to County Council, had some discussions with them as well. It seemed, in my opinion, there was a little bit of conflict. I thought that County Council read that into it as well, and also the fact that we were concerned about the experience of the board with these construction type determinations. So we took on trying to find some volunteers. I think it's important when you're looking for Board of Appeals members that we have one, that they meet the qualifying requirements of the adopted appendix. 2, the range of experience that they have. We don't want everybody to have the same experience. That's why we try to look at some people from fire, some people from the construction industry, and some building official type people as well. And the third thing is I think that you want to also have some outside people in there as well, not just people from the county, because it's supposed to be an impartial thing, and you're supposed to be looking at the interpretation of the California Building Code, and it shouldn't be just how Bill's interpreting it, how the folks in Lake County are interpreting it. It should be how it's interpreted by a wide range of people. So that's where I started when I started researching these. I asked around a few people. A few of them you'll recognize are the Lakeport building official, the Clear Lake or the Lakeport fire chief, a couple of the fire district fire marshals, and then a couple of contractors that I got recommendations from.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments? Supervisor Pyska.
Well, I agree in having a wide array of experience. I do think that to reduce the appearance of potential conflict or direct conflict, that we should have retired business people so that we can eliminate those working relationship conflicts that could come up. So if we've got some retired contractors or retired engineers, I think that might be a potential better fit than people that are still active in the business today.
Any further comments or questions? Oh, sorry, missed the bubblehead.
Yeah, I'll get a better bubblehead for you. Sure. Well, I guess I would disagree with the last comment. I might also disagree to some extent, notwithstanding the hard efforts of staff and what they think might be a good qualified review board. I'm looking at Appendix B, and I don't see any training or experience requirements in there. To the proposal that the building official would sit in as a substitute if somebody was not available, I'm looking at the first page of that appendix, and it specifically says the building official shall be ex officio, but shall not vote on any matter. So I appreciate that there was public outreach, and I appreciate that these can be hard to fill, like many of our advisory boards can, but also like many of our advisory boards, sometimes it's we throw it open and we get whatever public comes in. Sometimes there is I don't think cherry picking is the right word, but there's a more targeted solicitation of membership that would preclude participation by a member of the general public. They're not necessarily trying to drill down into every weeds here, but it's an appeal board, so their questions may be about process. You know, was this heard? Was there abuse of discretion? So it isn't necessarily down to the actual building standards that are being applied. So the only real hard asterisk I have is I do see something in there that states the building official shouldn't be voting on any of this stuff. So that's it.
But that would be the building official of the jurisdiction where the appeal is occurring, correct?
Yes, I could add a little bit of clarification to that. I think maybe in my staff report, maybe it was misconstrued. The only time I would be on the appeals board to be voting is if it was one of the other jurisdictions or fire districts that had an appeal. So if City of Lakeport had a decision appealed, I can't think of her name. The building official for City of Lakeport would not be eligible to be on the appeals board. So I would take her seat. She would be the ex facto member and not voting. I would take her seat on the board because it would not be in our jurisdiction. I would hear her appeal as her replacement in her jurisdiction. Same thing for the Lakeport Fire Department. Chief Wrights would come off the appeals board if somebody appealed his decision in his jurisdiction. I would go on the appeals board. Basically, I would be replacing them in their jurisdiction. I would never make a determination on the appeals board in County of Lakes jurisdiction. It would only be on one of the fire districts or one of the other cities' jurisdictions. Also, just so you know, it talks about in section B 101.2, the application for appeal. The appeals board is only allowed to render judgments on claims that the intent of the code is incorrectly interpreted, the code does not fully apply, or there is an equally or better form of construction is proposed. So there is some digging down into the code to try and figure out these things. And then under qualifications, it talks about the experience and requirements for that.
Thank you.
So quick question. In the memo, it speaks to, and you alluded to it, that this roster that you gave us with the 5 members and the 2 alternates, that it would be the same roster that the fire district would utilize. Am I correct in restating that, or am I incorrect?
That is correct. It would be except for the fact that I would switch in for.
So you would want to be on the list for alternates then?
Well, yeah, basically whoever switched out for their district, I would replace them. So I wouldn't be the alternate. I would be the. So Chief Wrights would be the one coming off, say if it was in the Lakeport Fire Department. So I would go right on in his place. We would still have the 2 alternates in case myself or one of the 5 main people. And I'm not even married to that. If you guys want me to drop down to the alternate, I have no problem with that either.
No, I think that if we're asking, for example, Bethany, from the city of Lakeport to provide assistance on this board, that it's only right to reciprocate and
Yeah.
offer your services for their board.
And that's what the.
But I think your name would need to be listed in the alternates so that it's official that that's how we can flip you into that category.
And the reason I didn't put it in there is because I figured that their own jurisdiction would have to adopt their appeals board.
Gotcha.
And so I didn't think you guys would be adopting for them. That's why I didn't put myself in.
Gotcha. Okay.
So quick
Could
follow-up
add
question.
something in the bylaws, though, that does specify that. That way it would still be covered.
So quick follow for the city of Lakeport, we wouldn't just lose Bethany, we'd lose Chief Wrights as well.
Well, it would depend on what their, no, because Chief Wrights could still rule on it unless it was his determination. So if his fire district had a code and called out a code section, and they wanted to appeal his decision, then he would not be able to sit on it, but Bethany could. Now, if they go and appeal Bethany's decision, but it's not his decision, then he can still sit on it. Now, if they appeal a decision that both of them have, then yes, they would lose both of them off the appeals board, and it would be me and an alternate to go on. Because the fire district is not necessarily the jurisdiction, so there's two jurisdictions that have a, it's just like now, Chief Wrights could have something in the county area that's part of his jurisdiction where he makes a determination, and they could want to appeal that. And then he would not be able to sit on the appeals board, we would have to use one of the alternates.
And it might be a difference between building code and fire code as to where the appeal goes and things like that. Any further comments? So my comment is the centralized jurisdiction of the 5 members. I see that there are some South County folks as alternates, but I'd like to see a board encompass as much of our county as possible, especially since the decisions that you will be seeing, if appealed, that can happen all the way to Spring Valley, all the way to Middletown, all the way to Lake Pillsbury, for all we know. And so making sure that it's not just centralized on the expertise and experience of those residing in the city of Lakeport and the city of Kelseyville, or the town of Kelseyville, that expertise exists throughout the county. I think it's a matter of ensuring we have that, and I'd love to see greater equity within the group that you have currently. I do know I reached out, no offense to Mr. Henry, I don't know who he is. I do have an issue with somebody making a final determination and decision that doesn't reside in Lake County and that doesn't have to live with the decision itself. I think that I would prefer seeing people who live here and are going to have, are going to see their decisions every day that they make, not go away and someone else can deal with the decisions that they make. So I would prefer 5 members from the county rather than somebody coming from out of the county. I did speak with Lee Lambert, who used to be the chief building inspector, who still has his licenses for doing building, and he did say that he was spoken to not by you, but by someone else in your department, and he had said yes.
Is this the Clear Lake, City of Clear Lake
He's in
Code Enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, so Jack reached out to him.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be getting back to us with his answer and never gave us an answer if he was okay. He was supposed to be checking with his boss over there.
So he told me he said yes. So I don't know if something got lost or if his communication never reached you. I'm not quite certain. But I'd love to see that reciprocated, because I think that not to say this is that we want to force this on them, but in my conversation with the city saying, hey, it seems like the city of Lakeport's moving towards that, there seemed to trigger a conversation from the city of Clear Lake saying, we don't deal with these often, but this might be a better way for us to go, because right now, I don't even know who the appeal board is, since we haven't had to deal with an appeal for building construction. And so maybe that's something that they will utilize too, and having a balance between Lakeport, Clear Lake, and again, all around the community. I could think of, I don't want to change the whole thing, but again, I'm looking for equity and ensuring that we provide a opportunity to those who I don't typically see. These are kind of the usual suspects, in my opinion, without being rude in the usage of that statement. But I'm thinking somebody like Umberto, who does roofing and does other type of work, who is a business owner in the Lower Lake area. I would like to see more equity on the group rather than the easy list of usual suspects that is easy for us to identify and coordinate. I'd love to see, if it gets complex, see Autumn as being a official member rather than an alternate. Again, trying to expand that geographic equity rather than not. So those are my personal opinions on looking at this, that I would like to see those things happen. Those things.
Could I speak to you a little bit about your out-of-county person?
Yes.
My thoughts on that is I just think it's very important that a lot of times I go to the counter and almost daily I'll tell somebody a code requirement and they'll say, well, this is how we've done it here for years. But that's not how the California code reads. So I think sometimes it's very important to, especially on an appeals board, when you're talking about looking at codes that are for all of California, that we have an interpretation of how other people are seeing it outside of our jurisdiction, not just how we've done it up here for 100 years, but how other people are doing things. Not saying that we're doing it wrong, not saying they're doing it better. Maybe they have a better way. Maybe their way is terrible and we have a better way. I'm just saying that it's nice to have some input from different people to see how they're doing it. And when we're just looking at our little area, sometimes we don't see a lot of other stuff that's out there and possibilities of ways to do things.
And just as a response before I move on to Supervisor Pyska, I get that, and getting their input I think is valuable, but allowing them to make a decision that impacts a county they don't reside in is where I struggle. Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, I want to come back to the two individuals that own businesses, and likely most of the contractors have a relationship with them because we have so few of these businesses in our county. And I think that sets up a conflict with relationships. And I would really like to see different individuals recommended. And if they are in the industry, I think we can look at people in the industry. I would prefer to see retired people again, because I do think that there's a conflict.
Any other comment? Supervisor Simon?
I agree with the comment about the out-of-county individual for sure. I think it should be someone in the county. Whether we've done it 100 years that way or not, I completely agree. I just think it should be an in-county member. I think setting up the board is really important, obviously, because we are listed as the board, and who knows how many of these we get. You said you just got one this last year, and I know they may not come in a long ways, but it'd be great to have this thing set up again, to get it functional when those opportunities are given to to this appeal board when it needs to be heard. Kind of independent body there. So the other thing is too, it's going to be a challenge, I think, to get the retired folks to get on the appeal board. I think it's a good suggestion. I'll go with whichever way the board wants to go. I do know that these, I noticed both the name business owners and those folks, they're well-rounded. They've been here for a long time, but you bring up another good name there in South Lake County. So however the board wants to go on that one, I can go with that, but I really do believe I lean towards having all Lake County residents, whether they're in the business or not working for the county, however we do it, but it's Lake County folks on this board.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, agree. We should probably stay local with the membership, although the point is well taken. Have an outside experience would be helpful. And of course, we could bring in additional testimony from outside, even if they don't sit on this. To the retiree thing, again, thank you for pointing out the qualifications as outlined in the appendix. I don't know that we have any authority to impose additional requirements. My question, because there was some direct outreach, did these people all submit applications? Did they sign the code of conduct that would go with that application, so that if there is a potential for an actual conflict of interest on a case-specific basis, we could address it, because they've already signed up and they know they're bound by a conflict of interest requirement within that code. So were applications accepted for these, and did they sign those applications, including the statement that goes with that?
Both of those are no. I reached out to people that I thought might be able to make a determination, that I thought their experiences might meet up, and we reached out to these people, plus the guy at Clear Lake, the code enforcement officer. Those were our pool that we asked.
All right. Well, whether it's by the de facto operation of this board or whether we actually have them sign a conflict statement like we do for all our other boards and commissions, I think that would handle it, and that would allow us to handle any potential conflicts on a case-by-case basis without excluding working professionals who may actually have the best training and experience that this board needs to review.
Just in the comments today, I don't want to slow it down either as far as getting this implemented. I thought the suggestion of moving Adam in, my thoughts would be you could move
Autumn
up to the number 3 spot there where Mr. Henry's name was. And then it sounds like Lee Lambert is interested from the city of Clear Lake. I mean, that could fill that out. We'd come back and do the alternates later, just keeping things moving to get it established.
Sounds, any other comments of moving forward with those changes or looking at obtaining other applications?
I think we should be looking at others. I think there's a lot of comments here. We all have thoughts, and this is not something that is urgent, and I think we can relook at this list and bring it back.
So I do have a quick question specific to Mark Borghesani. Definitely know of who he is and his ownership of his business, but outside of the business, his expertise in construction and building, what is that? Without an application, it's hard for me to know the exact knowledge that he would bring to the table.
It's a valid question. I was going to wait until after public input when it comes back to the board, but I think where from what I'm reading the room is we would continue this item. We're going to broaden our search, probably work with the Board of Supervisors office to send out a press release requesting memberships for the industry category, but then keep the ones that we have here and return to you at a future meeting where the board will see the signed applications and will be able to decide at that time who is the core group and who are the alternates.
Okay. And I think that we'll work and make sure that we get you some of the names that we commented about today so that without an application, they can't be on that roster.
Yeah, we'll reach out to Lee, definitely. That's great.
Okay. If nothing further, then let's open it up for the public. Anybody in the Zoom room or the chamber have a comment or a question? Seeing nobody getting up and seeing no hands up, it looks like you've received your direction, and that is all you needed at this moment in time.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.